What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hey, kids. It's a lovely, balmy-looking Thursday afternoon. Oh, my God, I totally forgot what day of the week it is. It's pretty sad, isn't it? I have to say. Well, here we all are. I'm so very excited because we have 2 different individuals coming on the show, and both of which are multi-talented, super phenomenal talents. Both same but yet different. One being a composer, yet on the other side of the fence, we have this lovely musical that we're going to talk about, and they both have put their brains and their time together to partner up to put us together for the production All Aboard, which is the musical that's coming out. In fact, it's launching starting tomorrow, which I'm so excited about. So without further ado, we're going to get it both on the line, meaning Tony Sportiello. Yeah, if I could speak today, Al Tapper, who is the composer, and of course, Tony Sportiello. You know what? I'm not even going to say it anymore. We're going to get them on the line. They can pronounce it themselves. Just 1 second, folks. Okay, who have I got with me?
Tony's here.
Tony is here. Okay, let me just put you on hold for 1 second. Let me put Al on the line. Just 1 minute.
You got it?
Al, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're all together. Oh, my gosh. Well, hi. Oh, my gosh. I'm so nervous. I have you both on my ear literally at the exact same time, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I first of all want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule for somebody like me. It's a whirlwind around here, so I appreciate you taking the time. Are you guys excited and jetted up? Because it's launching tonight or tomorrow, as I understand it.
Well, it's opening on the 18th, but there's a preview on the 17th, and
yes.
But the actual opening is 7 o'clock on the 18th.
I gotcha. Okay. Now, I'm going to flip-flop around. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say when I get asked a lot if we're excited, and I think both Al and I are cautiously optimistic at this point.
Well, that was going to kind of lead into my very first question, which is this, obviously. I deal with people who are in different lines of work all the time. Like some people do plays, some do movies, some do, all different formats of theater. So my question to you is, for opening night for something like a musical, how does that vary, for instance, if you're just doing, let's say, a short-run play? Talk to me a little bit about the genre of musicals, because we've all seen them before, but we don't really know what goes into the real making and production of musical versus, let's say, a regular straight play. Am I making sense?
Sure, but I think Tony should answer that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think we both have experience with it, but I generally write straight plays, and I've only recently written musicals with Al. So I could certainly speak from the straight play. There are a lot more components in a musical over which you have no control as a writer. So there are things that are going on that I trust and I have to rely on, whereas in a drama or a comedy or something that I wrote, so long as the actors are strong and the direction is you're on the same page with the director, basically you know pretty much or you hope you know pretty much what you're going to get. With a musical is a whole other animal because over and above the book that you write, you've got these singers and sometimes dancers and musicians and all of this stuff going on over which I really don't have any control. So I feel more like an audience member when we're doing a musical than the writer when we're doing a straight play.
Makes sense.
I feel a little differently about it.
Okay.
Because I've done 7 musicals, so I'm used to it, and it's the most interesting part is that the show is never written until the show opens, and even now when we're in the last moments of run-throughs, changes are being made, notes are being taken. And that will continue on until probably the show opens, and then even then it's not always fixed, but for the most part it is.
Sure.
Right. I can tell you this right now. It's nice being in the musical as opposed to a straight play, because in a straight play that I wrote, if the audience doesn't like it, it's totally my fault. In a musical, if the audience doesn't like it, I blame Al. And Al blames me, and then have somebody else to.
and I'm usually right. It's usually Tony's
Oh my
fault.
gosh! Oh
Yes,
my
he
gosh!
is.
This is like a marriage with. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
listen
I'll
to
tell you
that.
something fascinating about Tony and I. That it really just occurred to me leaving the theater today. Is that Tony and I have written 2 musicals in a row and have worked on 3 plays altogether, and I've discussed others, and yet, and we've written an entire book, entire score, music and lyrics, and we've never been in the same room.
Right.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Really?
It's pretty. Yeah, I think if it was years ago, I don't think it would be possible. When you have email and you have text and telephones, and you just don't need to. You discuss it. You're really right there, but you're not face to face. But it is an interesting thing. I don't know if other people have that same working ethic, but we do pretty well with talking about it, and when we get together for a drink, we talk about it then too. But actually working together, we really do it. He does it where he is, and I do it where I am.
Yeah.
I like that. And I've often noticed that people that work together, whether it's in theater, stage, movies, etc., I would notice that the stronger the bond of the relationship is off of the stage makes a huge difference as to what it comes across on a stage, especially when you're talking about a production like, for instance, here, as I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like you guys have actually a total of 3 actors. You have the conductor, and then you have the lead female and the lead male, but they're also playing dual roles because there's 3 couples involved in this musical. So you've literally had somewhat of a smaller cast, per se, to work with. Does that make a sizable difference when it comes to making a musical, do you think?
Immensely. First of all, financially, it's a hell of a lot less. That's the first thing. and also, it's fascinating because every actor wants to show off their skill and their talent. And here is an opportunity for, in 90 minutes, for 2 actors to be able to play 3 totally different characters.
Right.
Totally different characters, and do them all and pull them all off. And when they walk in, you don't even think they're the same person that you just saw 2 minutes ago.
Right.
So I think it's a fascinating thing for actors. I think it's an opportunity for actors to really show off their talent.
Yeah,
and I think definitely.
That in some ways it's a little trickier in rehearsal because, if, for example, we had 6 actors playing 3 different parts, well, then you could have 2 actors rehearsing different times, again, by themselves. It's just like this. But this, if you don't have Nathan and Sammy in the same room, you don't have a show. So you're going at it a little bit more elaborately and a little bit in a slower vein, but it's good. It's strong because it makes you focus on each individual one and not lose the other 2.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Well, the other part of the equation is, too, if you, I would assume it's not just let's throw the actors on the stage. You have to be able to know when to put the music in at the right time, how that coordinates well, and you have to coordinate your actors to the music, whereas you have to put the music with the actors. It's a partnership of sorts, obviously. And then, of course, the writing, making sure, I hear often people that do independent film, for instance, let's say, or even web series, et cetera, they're like, improv is a huge thing. When it comes to doing a musical, is there any room for improv, or is it just moment to moment, detail to detail, everything is set 100%?
It's pretty much set. This particular show allows one of the characters, the guy that plays the conductor, to be able to talk to the audience, which is called breaking the 4th wall. So he can ad lib, and if he sees one night he sees a cute little kid in the audience, he might play up to him, or someone else. So yeah, it's fixed, but in terms of dialogue, in terms of music, in terms of lyrics, it is fixed. But the action sometimes can change. In this particular show, can change from performance to performance. The last show Tony and I did, which was National Pastime, that's fixed. Once that's done, and it has to be done the same way each time. There isn't really room for improvisation.
Right. I think a musical gives you less room for improvisation than a straight play. There's so many components that are relying on you getting to a certain point at a certain time,
Sure.
whether it be lights, sound, props, the musicians, the songs, and such like that. Where in a straight play, if you have a long scene, for example, and there's nothing but you and another actor or two actors on stage, and you go and you improv, you're really not. You're getting back on track fairly soon. But in a musical, you can really throw the thing off the wheels if you start going off book or going out of sequence to any great extent. So I think there's less likely that. Actors can improv during rehearsal, such sometimes, and some rely on that in order to help them understand better what the character is. And I've watched actors improv a scene, and it helps them get a better sense of where they think they should be going. But once you're on the stage and in front of an audience, it's hard in a musical.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely. Now, to those that are listening in, I want to give a little backdrop to this. It's called All Aboard Musical, obviously. Director being Warren Scott Friedman, of course. Just so you folks know that are New Yorkers, for instance, it's being held at the theater at the 14th Street Y. It runs, of course, as we mentioned, from February 17th to March 5th. Now, the backstory is that we have three different couples that are traveling on the train. I don't want to give away too much. I can tell you that all three of their stories are very diverse. They're all on three different journeys. I know that there's different messages that come across here, meaning some of despair, some of heartbreak, some of just general love and affection and adoration. So to both of you, I asked the question because we haven't been able to see the musical yet. What one or two things do you think the audience will be able to relate to most, which will make them gravitate to want to see your production versus someone else who is out and about having a musical right now? Tell us a little bit about what you can tell us. What do you find most special or most unique?
Well, I think that the three stories are so different that everybody can in some ways relate to it. This first story is a story about a couple who are not having any marital difficulties at all, but the husband would like to experience someone else after so many years of marriage. And it's not anything, there's a lot of people that may not actually come out and tell your wife, I think I'm going to go have an affair, but you certainly may think about it. And the second show is political, and with what's going on in Washington today, it's incredibly relevant, more relevant now than it was when we wrote the act. Sure. And the third is something I think we all worry about. I mean, from the time we're born, is that we're worried about dying. And have you contributed enough? Have you done what you could possibly do to help others, or has it all been for yourself? So all three stories, in some ways, do relate to feelings that all of us have at one time or another.
Sure.
Right. I think, yes, I agree totally with Al on all of that. I think in terms of what makes it unique, of course, is the idea of having the two actors playing the three separate parts. And having seen a couple of run-throughs now, I can't tell that they're the same person sometimes. The way that they play the parts, the roles that they undertake, their mannerisms, their voices, their inflections, their singing even, kind of gives you the idea that you're watching six actors as opposed to two. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun for the audience to see these two very, very gifted actors take on three totally separate parts and play them in totally separate ways. That I think is what sets us apart from anything else that's playing right now.
Yeah,
and just out of curiosity. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I said earlier, the opportunity, actors relish it. I mean, the opportunity to be able to show off their talent this way is very, very unusual, and there are not a lot of shows, certainly not a lot of musicals that have this kind of a premise. So it is an opportunity for an actor to really show off his or her skills.
Oh, without a doubt, I'm sure. Now, just out of curiosity, were either of you part of the casting process, or is that just not the status quo? I was just intrigued in asking that. Meaning, did you have any part to play in any of that?
In the usual contracts, the authors are have the final say in casting.
That's what I thought.
That's how it works in a off-Broadway or a musical type of thing is that even the director doesn't have the final say, the authors do.
Right.
In this particular case, I was not involved as much in the casting because I was in Indiana working on another show on National Pastime that Al alluded to before, doing a workshopping in Indiana. So Al and the director, Warren Scott Friedman, and such, our producer, they took on the casting on this one.
Actually, I'll edit that a little bit. Tony wasn't there because he was working on our other show in Indiana, but I was in Florida playing golf. So,
I just wasn't available at that time.
I had to know when are they going to have the callbacks. So I came to all the callbacks. So I saw about 40 or 50 performers that they had already seen. The director and the assistant director and the producer had already seen. So looking at it from, we've already gone through one stage of audition, and now the callbacks means that these people are worth listening to and hearing again. So I did go to all the callbacks, though. I gave up my golf game.
Yeah, I was just going to mention to you, Alan, just so you folks know this, it's one of the things I know about you. Now, you technically have two residences, right? So you reside in both New York and Florida. Is that correct? Is that how that works?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured.
I'm in New York. I'm in New York more often than.
I imagine so.
But I do have a home in Boca Raton also.
Yes, I thought that, and then I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if he is in Florida most of the time, why in God's name would you want to be in New York City? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be 30 over there right now, right, or something like that. And I'm thinking, why would he want to do this again? I love New York myself, but I'm like, why?
Well, I'll tell you something. I do it because I love it. I mean, I know this isn't going to sound quite right, but to me, show business work is like playing in a sandbox. I mean, it is just fun, especially the creating part, the writing of it.
Right.
And when you have a partner like Tony, it makes it a lot easier because he's such a good book writer. So I just love what I do, and as long as I have a piano in all of my homes, what else do I need? A pad of paper and a piano. So it doesn't really matter where I'm at.
Right.
And you are right.
You
it's
can do it from
colder
anywhere
in New York than it is in Florida.
Well, right. Not to mention the fact I'm here to tell you because I am in Wisconsin now. I'm eventually going to live in New York City, and it took me a long while. It's not even just the weather so much. It's I'm not going to die getting hit by a taxi cab, getting used to people not staring at me in the face. It's all that stuff that you have to get used to. Obviously, it's rich in art and culture, and I absolutely love it there. No, I totally get what you mean. Now, I want to flip over to Tony, to you for just a second, because I want to mention a couple of different things that I know about you. First of all, I think it's very important that we mention that you are the artistic director for the Algonquin Theater for almost 13 years now. I love this expression that you have. You have said, we want to put the right play in the hands of the right actors in front of the right people. Love that. Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about what drew you to the Algonquin Theater, and talk a little bit about the services that you offer to those that are listening in that might not be familiar with it or might want to go there for some event or something you have going on.
Sure. Well, it started basically, I was the artistic director of the Workshop Theater Company, which is still in business on 36th Street. And the Workshop Theater Company is a wonderful company that develops new plays. And that's what we did. Is we took plays from the beginning, and then we put them into rehearsal. We would do 20-minute readings, and then we would do 3-day weekend readings, and then we would put them on stage. And it was a great process, and I loved it, and I still love it. And they do a wonderful job there without me, probably better even without me. But what happened is that I was realizing that 90% of the time we were spent into creating a show and 10% into moving it on to the next level. So I wanted to flip that. With Algonquin, we were taking shows that had already been developed by excellent companies such as the Workshop and trying to get them into the hands of who wanted to produce them. So we were doing and we were just doing readings on it. So we were actually doing 10% of the actual production and 90% trying to get it into of other people, and we have been moderately successful. We have had shows from Algonquin go into Dallas and Los Angeles, into New Hampshire and North and South Carolina, into London. and such like that.
Wow.
Now, when we decided to start producing our own shows, the actual reading and Algonquin took a little bit of a hiatus on that to actually go ahead and produce, because one of the mission statements was to get it onto the next level, and if we could do that ourselves, so much the better. My hope is that by producing and getting the shows onto the next level and having some modicum of success, it will enable me to go back and to start recreating what we had done for so long, and get go back into that process of getting other scripts, wonderful scripts, out that are already ready to go. That's the problem is not that there are so few good scripts. There are a lot of wonderful scripts out there. The problem is nobody knows about them. So, that was my gig, and that was what Algonquin had set out to do and will still set out to do. And when I am working on a show like National Pastime or All Aboard, it becomes a little bit harder, but once All Aboard is done, and if we are taking a hiatus from that, then I'll go back into trying to move the other scripts as well.
Of course, makes sense. Now, to flip over to you, Al, I think this is important to mention. I did not know this, but I found out through research that you actually helped to create the Tapper Research and Testing Center at is it pronounced the Shoah Foundation? Did I get that correctly?
Yes. Yeah, the Shoah Foundation was founded by Steven Spielberg after he produced and directed Schindler's List. And when it was over, there were people coming up to him constantly who were survivors of the Holocaust, saying, "How would you like to hear my story?" And Stephen got the idea that maybe we should, before these people die, let's digitize it, and let's get these people's story so that nobody will ever forget it. And I got involved with Stephen on that and became friendly with him. And when it came to putting the money up to do the Tapper Research and Testing Center, which is where the scholars or the teachers, any academic would go in there, and if they wanted to find out anything about any concentration camp or anything about the Nazis or anything about survivors, they could that was all digitized, so they just get the information so freely. And to me, it was a gift that I could give them because it's such an important thing to make sure that we never forget.
I agree 100%. That was so impressive. In fact, obviously, you've also won a Peabody Award. If you would please, I believe it's entitled A Jewish Legacy. If you could summarize for us, because I'm sure people may not be familiar with that work necessarily, talk to us a little bit about that and what an honor. You must have been it must have been a surreal moment for that.
Well, it's interesting. I'll tell you how it all started. It's not that long a story. There were two people in my apartment, and we were talking about why so many Jews have written musicals. Music and lyrics, almost 95% of every Broadway musical in its heyday were written by Jews. And we all had a different reason as to why. I thought it was because the music itself is Eastern European in its roots. Somebody else thought that it was, they wouldn't let a Jew be a carpenter or a plumber. So, as long as you could write a tune, nobody cared who you were. So we decided to do this movie. And I sat down at the piano, and I played a song for them to prove my point about the Eastern European roots. And it was a song that I had written for a show that Tony produced that I wrote called An Evening at the Carlisle. And one of the songs was about Joe DiMaggio. Now, you can't have a bigger hero than Joe DiMaggio. And so I played that song. So they were confused. They said, "Oh, okay, so what's that got to do with it?" I said, "I'm going to play it for you one more time, and I'm only going to change one thing. I'm going to change two things. I'm going to change a G chord to a G minor chord and a C chord to a C minor chord. I'm going to play you the same thing." And I did that, and they said, "Oh my God, it sounds like I'm in the synagogue." So the roots of that music yes, it is a place where Jews could go and be comfortable, but it also has its roots in Eastern European music, Russian music, all of Eastern Europe. We did it, and we ended up interviewing every living composer. And if the composers weren't alive, we interviewed their families, their children, their wives, their grandchildren, their cousins, and we actually shot 95% of the movie actually in my apartment, moving everything around so it looked different, and you wouldn't know if you saw it. You wouldn't have any idea that we did that, but that was quite a kick. One of the just a sidelight interesting thing is Mary Rogers, Richard Rogers' daughter, came up the elevator to my apartment, and she looked at my West Terrace, and she said, "I have pictures of myself there when I was 10 months old. My parents lived in this apartment," and and it was like chills that I'm living in the same apartment that Richard Rogers lived in. So,
my gosh!
Yeah. Anyway, and we did win the Peabody Award.
Peabody.
Yeah.
Exactly. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is a huge honor, I have to say. Definitely. Now, Tony, over here on the other side, he's not doing too badly himself. Both National Pastime and Contract Time. I understand that puts you in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Wow. That's what I said when I read that. I'm like, wow.
Hey, you should see him play shortstop. He can't play shortstop. He's a decent ball player, but he can only get in there by writing something.
I always tell people that.
Cool.
Yeah, I always tell people I am in the Hall of Fame and Pete Rose isn't. So there you go. Basically, the way that started quickly is that they wanted a piece to do during their induction weekends, a short piece, like an hour-long piece. And I came up with the idea of National Pastime, which is mostly done on radio, so you're not actually seeing a sport. And I did it for, we performed it in the Hall of Fame, and Contract Time was another one act about a baseball player who refuses to take the tremendous amount of money that is due him because he feels like his brother, who is a teacher, is getting paid minimum wage and starving, and he does something that's far more productive to society. So both of those went into the induction weekends on different years, and they put me in the library. I should specify the library part of the Hall of Fame. But I am a Hall of Fame member. I have a card and everything.
Yes, and I think that is so cool because I'm like, oh my God, how cool is that? Is like major bragging rights. Like, yeah, you think you're great? Look at this. Because, just so you folks know, not only has Tony obviously authored over a dozen plays, you've also been a TV writer and producer. That's the only genre that I haven't been in as of yet. What I want to ask you about that is, out of the things you've done, meaning the TV, the plays, etc., everything that you've done so far, including obviously you're also a husband and father. I see in your wife, Kelly, is an actress as well. So this is what I want to ask you. Out of all these things, which one are you most passionate about from a professional standpoint? Meaning it just gives you the shivers or the chills, or you're like, oh, there's nothing better than doing this. Out of all these different areas you work in. And I'm going to ask you the same thing, Al.
Well, I think, I don't know, Al may say the same thing. At this point in time, the thing that gives me the most satisfaction, the biggest chills, is being a father. I have this amazing 7-year-old who is just so smart and wise and funny and just tremendous to be with. She has come to our show, Bucks County Playhouse, at 7 years old and sat through 2 hours of the musical and such. So if you're talking about working on screenplays or television or theater or musicals or such, for me, I've always been a theater writer. I have actually turned down the opportunity to go out to Los Angeles way back in 91, 92 and work for television or such because I always wanted to write for the stage. And it didn't matter to me if 30 people saw it or 50 people saw it or 80 people saw it.
Sure.
That's what I always wanted to do. I grew up idolizing George S. Kaufman and Moss Hart. That's why the company is named the Algonquin, because those early writers of the Algonquin Round Table were my inspiration growing up. So there's nothing that I would rather do than be writing stage plays and seeing them rehearsed and seeing them in front of an audience. So for me, that's my total obsession.
And Al, I want to ask this question
Tony
before you answer.
Go ahead. I have to, of course, mention, because Tony mentioned it. How can I leave my daughters out? I have two. It's the obligatory mention of the children. But I have two beautiful daughters, and I have 4 grandchildren. So.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Tony's a little younger than me. He's a young guy.
I know how old you both are, actually.
I had 2 dreams. I lived in the Worcester, Mass, which was near Boston, and I wanted to either play for the Red Sox or write a Broadway musical. And I've wanted to do that since I was maybe 10. And knew about it. My father was a composer, not of note. He just was an amateur, but he was very good. And I, when I was about 10 or 11 years old, I was writing songs, and I didn't think it was any big deal. I thought that everybody wrote songs. I thought it was just part of speaking. My brother could write songs. He just didn't want to. I didn't think it was a talent. I just thought it was something everybody did. And so then I went to work at the Brill Building in New York when I was 17. Mm-hmm. And the only hit I ever had, I actually wrote when I was 17. That's work. Did you see Beautiful? The musical, Beautiful?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I worked. Carole King worked there. Carol Klein at that time, and Neil Sedaka and Neil Diamond, and it was where. Don Kirshner was a record producer would be, and he'd give you a little cubicle. Everybody had their own little cubicle, and you would write a song and leave it in the basket. And if he liked it, he would take it. If he didn't like it, he just wouldn't take it. Put it in the out basket.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. It was such a great time. It really was. I missed that, and I think that I've always viewed writing and show business in that light, just the fun of sitting in a room with a piano and writing. And now it's more interesting because Tony can create some great characters, and then I can write some songs that these people would sing. And I'm writing specifically for the character, not for myself, but for that character. And that's a lot of fun.
Oh, I imagine.
I should mention that I think one of the things that makes our relationship a very strong and positive one is that I am completely tone deaf, and so there is at no point in time a matter where I will say to Al, "Oh, I could do that," because I can't.
Right.
So everything musically I leave up to him.
Oh, my gosh. Look at that. However, Al, you forgot to mention, since you brought up the writing component, I know that you're a co-author of these joke books. We have to talk about joke books.
Yes.
Guy goes into a bar. There's like one of like however many here, and I'm thinking to myself,
there's 5.
Funny.
There's 5
of
them.
There's 5, right?
There's a series of 5 books that have been published.
Mm-hmm.
They're still selling. I guess, the jokes are, some of the jokes were made up. But there's a lot of acknowledgments and personal stuff in there. So that was a lot of fun to do also.
I imagine so. It was hard to picture you doing that.
I'm working on a Bible of books, of jokes, which has...
Really?
The oldest person in the Bible was Methuselah. So I'm not... I have to have 967 jokes in order to have as many as Methuselah, and then I will write it as if it were a Bible. So that's just a project that I have somewhat on the back burner.
Oh, my God.
It'll happen.
It'll happen. It's out there. And that's exciting. So we'll have an opportunity to be able to look forward to that, obviously. So let's see. He's a composer. He's a playwright. He's co-author. He's a Peabody Award winner. He's a creator of part of this center here. I'm like, is there anything this man cannot do? Oh, and of course, I'll speak to Gail when we get off the phone, because I'm like, you know what? I know you want to play center field for the Boston Red Sox, so I have a contact close to the Boston Red Sox if you may want to just play with them for a day. I'm just throwing that out there.
Who is that? Wait a minute, Cindy. Who is that? Who's your contact?
I'll talk to Gail. Actually, you know what? When I see you, I see you in person, we can talk about that.
Wait a second. One thing that I need to tell you that I didn't tell you is that I'm working on a new movie, and the movie Yeah, and the movie is the life of Ted Williams. Ted Williams was the greatest hitter that ever lived, and he played for the Boston Red Sox. And I'm doing it with Bob Costas, who's a sportscaster. You probably may have heard of him.
Yeah.
And we've already interviewed Ted's daughter and a number of ball players. So it's a great project. So if you know somebody, and we're having the opening at Fenway Park. You know,
oh my God! Really?
Yeah. So if you have somebody, please tell me.
Well, we'll get through the interview, and what will happen is, just so you both know, I don't know if Gail told you this or not, but I am going to come to the show because I'm doing a review of it as well. So I'll physically be there. I don't know if you both will be there at the same time, so we'll meet each other in person. But I can't get there until the end of the run, pretty much towards the beginning of March, I think it is. I'll be there. So we'll take a peek at that. I don't want to forget to ask you about this because I don't know if you were both involved with this, but talk to me about this Derek Jeter Plays thing because I think that is way cool that you guys did this Derek Jeter thing. How cool is that? You guys did some awesome stuff.
Well, that was actually when Algonquin briefly had a theater at the South Street Seaport, before it was demolished and turned into whatever it is now there. And one of the things that we did, we had a member of Algonquin who was absolutely obsessed with Derek Jeter. And every time we would do something, she would say, I need to do a play about Derek Jeter. You need to write a play about Derek Jeter. Or I need to perform in a play about Derek Jeter. And I am, Al is a Boston fan. I am a Baltimore fan. Neither one of us are Yankee fans. But so many of the members and such were. And finally I thought, wouldn't that be a cool idea to solicit plays about Derek Jeter, whether he was in them or it was about them or whatever it was. And I put the word out. I got like 100 or so submissions. We did about 6 or 8 a night because they were relatively short, 15, 20 minutes. And I think in all of the productions, non-professional, that was a very, very small series of one-act things. In all of the things outside of the big musicals, that was far and away the most successful. People were calling up. I had a call from New York Magazine asking me about it. New York Magazine, they just wanted the premise on it. And stuff that you could never, New York One came into the story on it. All of the outlets that you want when you're a small theater company to come by, we just accidentally lucked into in terms of that. And it certainly became probably the most fun that we had there while we were at the Seaport.
Tony is such a tough producer that of the 100 submissions, one of them was mine, and he totally refused it. He said, "This is no good," and he was right.
No, I didn't say that, and I refused one of mine as well. So that helps.
No, and you know what? I have to ask this question too because I'm sure. Obviously, I just looked at your pictures over the last couple of days because when you research someone, you get to see what you look like, etc. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to lie, Tony would intimidate me walking into a room because Al, you appear to have this very composer, very calm, very kind-looking face, and then you look at Tony and he's very intense. You remind me, actually, Tony, of I have a dear friend who's a director in New York City. Are you familiar with John Gallagher? You remind me a lot of stuff.
I know the name. I don't know. I don't think we've ever met.
He's a doll, and I'm telling you, go look at him or Google him up sometime. You guys have that same intensity. He's the nicest guy in the world, but I would be scared. I don't know if I could work with you because you would scare me. I mean, I literally would be like hiding and afraid, and I've read your Facebook page. So I just want to ask this question. Am I to assume Tony is the football fan and so Al is the baseball fan, or are you both fans of both?
We're both fans of both.
Yeah, I am a diehard baseball fan, first and foremost.
Yeah,
you just happened to get onto my Facebook during the Super Bowl season. So as you get into April, May, June, July.
Yes. And I also noticed that somebody's a little political. I'm not going to mention. I'm wondering, Al, if you're as political necessarily as Tony, because I'm here to tell you I think I've read everything there is to read about Mr. Trump, or should I say anti-Trump is the sense that I'm getting, which I'm fine with because, I'm just curious if you're as political.
We make a little fun of him in this show.
Yep.
My God, I love it.
As a matter of fact, we poked him so badly that we had to change it. It was too bad. Yeah. So,
seriously?
But we kind of put him in his place.
If it were a play, and Al and I talked about this, if it was a play, and it was a play of mine, and I had a particular political bent on it, I would not have any problems in going full force into what I really wanted. But this is a musical, and it's a little more lighthearted, and it's a little bit more, we want it to be a little more accessible. So we don't want to get too absolutely crazy politically. I think as Al said, we poked fun. It would have been the same probably. We would have poked fun maybe in a different direction if we were writing the show during Obama or, Bush or something else, because it's about, one of the scenes is definitely about politics. But, we have toned it down a great deal. Certainly a great deal from my Facebook page.
I'll give you
I was just going to say.
I'll give you one line, Cindy, that we took out. Trump's number 45, same as his IQ.
I love it. Oh my God, I shouldn't laugh. That's terrible.
And I know, but we couldn't do it.
Oh my
I think
gosh.
it's. I think, by the way, I think it's true, but we can't do it.
Right. No, and I understand that, and there's all this hubbub about how entertainers shouldn't be involving themselves in politics, and we could go on all day about that. But I like the fact that if people have an outlet and it's relative and it works, like in this case, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. And kudos to you for doing it. That's complete creativity, I would say. I don't know if other people are going to feel that way, but that's exactly how I feel. Now, I don't want to forget to ask you guys both about this. Now, Tony, on your side point, as I understand it now, they're going to be turning your Project Checkmate into a short film. Is that the next thing up for you after all the musical is finished?
Yeah, it's done actually. I believe it's all.
Oh, it is.
Arlington Place. Yeah, Productions up in Buffalo has turned it into a short film, and I haven't yet seen the finished product. But maybe they still need to put the music and titles on and such. But I believe that it's for the 95% done.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, on the flip side of events, as far as you, Al, once All Aboard is finished, what do you move on to next? Or do you just kind of do project by project? I'm just curious what happens after that point in time.
Well, right now, after this, and after I'm working on a sequel to a novella that I wrote called Conversations with Max, and I'm working on chapter 2 of it. I mean, it's been published, but this is an extension. So I'm working on that. I'm working on the Ted Williams movie, and I'm always writing something in terms of songs. So waiting for Tony and I to have the next idea as to what we're going to write. So I want to have the songs written before he starts.
Right.
I gotcha. I understand completely. I do. Okay. Now, because I know, of course, obviously your boss told me that you have limited amounts of time. There's a couple quick things I want to do here before I let you go. On both sides of the fence, as I understand it, Al, the best way for people to find out about yourself is through your website, which is AMTEN. Well, it's AMTentertainment.com.
Right.
Are you other places on social media, or is that just the bulk?
You know what? I got to tell you something. I refuse to go on social media. I can't. I don't have any reason. I just think I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. I think there's enough about me in Google, so I didn't want to. So I just never. I just decided I didn't want to do it. So I didn't. I'm not on any. I'm not on any. I mean, it's hard to live in this century and not be on one of them. But somehow I managed to get through the day.
Of course, and that's and obviously I've been to your website, so I already know that it kind of encompasses everything. And if you want to Google him, folks, the name, of course, the last name is spelled Tapper. That's Tapper. Now, Tony, on the other side of the fence, you're gonna have to tell me how to say your name because I think I screwed it up 4 times already.
No worries. It's Sportiello, like Sportiello.
Sportiello. Oh, I like that. And of course, I'm guessing that's Italian.
Easy.
Yes. Okay. Now, a couple different places for you. You have, obviously, your personal Facebook page. You can also have your work. Your work is also found on YouTube. Also, you have a LinkedIn profile. And we don't want to forget to mention, of course, the website for the musical itself is allaboardthemusical.com. There's also a Facebook page, which is called All Aboard, a New Musical. And that's obviously, of course, for the musical that we were talking about. You're also on Instagram, All Aboard a Musical, as well as on Twitter, @AllAboard music. And I don't want to forget to mention this. The run is from February 17th until March 5th. Now, if they go to the website, they can directly purchase the tickets because, as I understand it, general admission is $50, $25 for students and seniors. Should they be getting their tickets, meaning are we suspecting that the run of most of which will be sold out? I mean, is it important that we're getting tickets ASAP, or what are you thinking? I guess we don't know yet.
Because well, we do know a little bit because it is such a short run in this particular case.
Okay.
The nights are filling up quicker than if it was an open-ended run, and I could tell you that.
Sure.
So certainly, I think the sooner the better is always the case.
Oh, of course. I kind of expected as much. And the last thing that I want to leave you guys with, and we can certainly talk about this in person, but I don't want to forget to mention this because you're both in here at the same place at the same time. June of this year, I am hosting my very first independent film festival. And if you guys are not busy doing your 75th project together or off in Florida having your next golf game, I thought to myself it would behoove me to ask these two very talented people to help me out if you're interested. I'm always looking for people to come in as panelists, especially people who have contributed music to either film, plays, etc., to talk to the people that are coming to the films, as well as anyone who has directed, authors, you name it. So you both qualify, and I would be highly honored if you would consider doing my film festival this year. You don't have to. I'm just throwing it out.
I think both Tony and I would be delighted to do
Absolutely.
it.
Aww. They're not so mean after all. Just kidding. You're absolutely
by the way,
Tony, I was very intimidated.
By the way, Cindy, Tony's a pussycat. You wouldn't be scared of him. He's the sweetest guy you could ever meet.
Oh, well, see, I have like 2 weeks to prep.
I didn't want to leave them
away.
with your claws hanging out, Tony.
Oh my God! Well, thank God for that at least. And I love the fact that you seem to have an absolutely wonderful, passionate partnership, for lack of a better term. Obviously, you're both males that work very well together, have a very high regard and high respect for one another. That's important. I'm crossing my fingers for you tonight that everything goes well, that the musical has a wonderful run. I will certainly let Gail know, or you know, when I'm going to be in town. My guess is I probably won't get there to the very end of the run, but I will get there before you're finished, and I hope that both of you are there because I would love to meet you both and shake your hand and say, thank you for coming into my world for 45 minutes today. This was lovely.
Oh. It was great.
Thank you for having us, and we look forward to meeting you.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. Now, I guess you have to go do what musicians and authors and people do. So go do your thing, and I'm looking forward to it, like I said. I was just going to say, I'm sure you have another run through.
About 10 minutes.
Ah, look at that.
We do have a run through at 5 o'clock, so I have to head back there. But thank you very much, Cindy.
Okay. No problem at all, guys. Thank you so much, Alan Tony. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Were they absolutely wonderful? I have to tell you, I was a little off base there in terms of not so much not doing my job per se necessarily, but it was a little different doing a shorter version interview with people. Usually, as we all know, when you guys are listening in to me, I'm going on and on for an hour, hour and a half. I'm gladly here to tell you that those guys could have easily stayed on for another half hour, 45 minutes. They're so entertaining. I don't want to forget to mention to everybody one more time so that you know how to find them. The name is Al Tapper, that's Tapper, just so you folks know he is the composer of the music for the musical, which we were talking about, which is again called All Aboard. His website is amtentertainment.com. As you heard him say, he is staying off the social media thing. With any luck at all, you'll be seeing him on the field for the Boston Red Sox at some point if I have anything to say about it. And don't forget, of course, to check out the Shoah Foundation page. That was what he was referring to, the Steven Spielberg inspired project. And of course, he is responsible for creating the Tapper Research and Testing Center, as we had mentioned. Also, again, reminder, A Jewish Legacy is what he has won the Peabody Award for. You may want to check that out. And also, if you go onto his website, you're going to see the joke books we were referring to, meaning a guy goes into a bar and the 4 other different books that he's done. And keep your eyes and ears open, of course, for the next book that's coming out according to him. On the flip side of the fence, so we go back over to Tony. Tony's information, he has a personal Facebook page. He has a LinkedIn profile. It can also be found on YouTube as well. Now, back to the musical itself. We don't want to forget, it has the main website, allaboardthemusical.com. Facebook page is All Aboard a New Musical. It can be found on Instagram at All Aboard a Musical, Twitter handle at All Aboard Music. And obviously, we mentioned the website where you can get the actual tickets for purchase for the musical. Again, the run is February 17th to March 5th. The location is the theater at the 14th Street Y. Tickets for general admission are $50 and $25 for all students and seniors. Also, don't want to forget to mention on Tony's side of the fence one more time, look for either a national pastime or contract time. That's, of course, his actual entry into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, which I just can't help it, folks. That is just way cool, completely way cool. I can't even say enough about it. Checkmate, as he is talking about, apparently it's being turned into a short film, and as I understand it, according to what he was saying, it almost sounds like it's done and finished. So keep your eyes open for that, and I'll certainly get more information on that, especially if I can convince these guys that, yes, as I said to them, they definitely need to be a part of my film festival. As you heard them also say, it's vitally important that you get on the website, not necessarily today or tomorrow because the run is first starting, but as we all know, if you're in New York City and you're looking for a quality production to watch, we want to make sure that you get your tickets nice and early so that this way you're not sold out. I would hate to see you be able to miss a quality production such as this. And the last thing that I want to forget to mention is, of course, as we talked about, he's the artistic director, at least in some capacity, or I should say association with the Algonquin Theater. All information, including a calendar of events, the gala, the whole 9 yards about what they do, can be found on algonquinarts.org. And that's spelled ALGONQUIN arts.org. So go ahead and check out what they have to offer as well. I do not want to forget two more details before I sign off on air. First of all, I want to remind everybody about tomorrow's show. I'm going to be hosting Bob Siriano, and that's going to be at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. Bob is an acoustical musician / songwriter / claim, just that one of the many claims to fame I have to say is the fact that he used to play with Deep Purple. He has opened up for just a hundred. I can't even begin to talk of the homage of individuals that he has worked with in the music scene. He now lives a lovely life out in Connecticut, which is close enough to New York City to where he can still perform in places like wine bars and other special events. We're going to talk about his musical career. We're going to talk about his association with some of the high-known musicians, or I should say well-known musicians and celebrities out there. So it should make for a hugely interesting show. So join us tomorrow at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time for Bob Siriano. I'll make sure to put that up on the show page and my personal page. My apologies, as I did not mention to Tony and Al. I did mention this to Gail today, but unfortunately I will have to go back and edit the show. We're having some technical difficulties. For some reason on the Blog Talk Radio studio page, I am unable at this moment today, in fact I tried last night too and it wasn't working, to download. Usually when my guests come on the show, I'll be sent MP3s or Dropbox in this case, and I'll take the music and I'll upload it, and then I'm able to play it while they're on the air, of course, like when we just the interview. Well, unfortunately, for some reason, I have a hodgepodge of stuff on my Blog Talk Radio page. It's not allowing me to do anything, literally. So it's a miracle I got the people on air today. So I'm going to have to go back. I will edit the episode to be able to go back in and listen to the song The Conductor, or I'll be able to put it on my show page and you'll be able to hear that as well. So do stay tuned for that. We'll put up The Conductor and maybe one of the other songs from the musical. That'll give you a little hint in terms of what's about to come over the next few weeks. And lastly, we do not want to forget Gail Parenteau. A special shout out to you with Parenteau Guidance. First of all, if you folks are looking for anything relative to public relations, then she can help you from the entertainment side of things. Her company is called Parenteau Guidance, and I'll spell that for you. That's PAREAENTEAU. If it was not for Gail and her association with me, we actually met on that fabulous public relations czar page that I constantly talk about 50 times a week. We would not have had this interview today. I would not be going to see the musical. I would not have an opportunity to even speak to either one of these fellows today. So, Gail, first and foremost, let me just say a huge thank you for orchestrating this event, for us coming together, for us working together. I'm looking forward to meeting you when I get to New York City, and I just have to say you're an absolute gem, and I'm confident that each and every client that you bring to me, hopefully you'll want to keep bringing them to me, is just as fabulous and as extraordinary as the clients you had on today, as well as yourself. Parenteau Guidance can also be found on Facebook as well if you're looking for her. Her direct email is gail@parenteauguidance.com. So, folks, thanks so much to everybody that's been listening in. Thank you to Tony and Al for their time and their attention today, as well as their work and accomplishments. Thank you to my listening audience for listening to me like you do each and every time. Without you, I wouldn't have a show, so I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your attention. Again, thanks to Gail. Again, thanks to my absolutely fabulous team of publicists that are out there. I don't often get a chance to be able to thank them because I'm always so busy or off doing a show. So to each and every one of you publicists out there besides Gail that I work with on a regular basis that bring me the brightest, the biggest, and the best, you are a gift, and I cannot thank you enough for your contributions. You're helping to make my show far more successful, and I appreciate it. So in that caveat, folks, I'm off to have a wonderful evening with my daughter and some friends. You enjoy your evening, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow at noon Central Standard Time. Take care.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. By singing dog. By goal.
I pronounce you.
By wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.